Howdy y'all, welcome to this special April Outlook. Just a disclaimer here before we get started. Keep in mind anything over a weekend is virtually impossible to forecast, so please take this April Outlook with a grain of salt. Now, a fun fact for y'all that you most likely did not know, something about diamond dust. In early April, particularly in frigid northern regions like Scandinavia or Canada, our 51st state, a rare weather event called diamond dust can occur. This isn't ordinarily snow, but a delicate scattering of tiny ice crystals that form in clear, sub-freezing conditions, often below negative 13 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 25 degrees Celsius, whichever metric system you use. These crystals, so fine they seem to float, retract sunlight into a shimmering diamond-like glow, earning their poetic name. Unlike blizzards, diamond dust is subtle and short-lived, often unnoticed outside polar areas where it's more common. For example, Antarctica, they see it over 300 days a year. In April, it's a hidden gem of the month's lingering cold, tying into its reputation for unpredictable weather and quiet beauty. Its obscurity comes from its low impact and the fact that it's overshadowed by spring's louder transitions like rain or blooms. Now, there is also diamond rain on Uranus and Neptune as well. Diamonds take on a wilder form on the ice giants like Uranus and Neptune, deep within their atmospheres. Extreme pressures, millions of times of Earth's, and scorching temperatures, thousands of degrees Kelvin, transform methane into something extraordinary. The methane's carbon atoms break free and bond under these conditions, crystallizing into diamonds. These gems, likely small but real, form high in the atmosphere and grow heavy enough to rain downward, sinking thousands of kilometers toward the planet's cores. Recent studies using X-ray lasers suggest this happens at shallower depths than previously thought, possibly affecting the planet's quirky magnetic fields by churning conductive layers as they fall. This cosmic diamond rain, unlike Earth's icy diamond dust, is a product of alien chemistry and physics, turning a common gas into a dazzling spectacle. So that's a fact that most likely y'all did not know. That diamond dust does occur here on Earth, and it does rain diamonds on other planets, surprisingly. Now, to get into the April outlook of what we could expect, we're going to take a look at our ENSO pattern. What it is basically takes a look at the equator near the Pacific, determines La Nina, El Nino, or ENSO neutral. We can see we're currently under a La Nina. We're going to be heading into more of an ENSO neutral pattern as we head into April. And it's going to be persisting all the way into the summertime. And we can see here, currently in that La Nina pattern, we're going to be heading into an ENSO neutral pattern as we head into the summertime. And we can see just this right here. We're going to be heading out of La Nina, more into an ENSO neutral pattern as we head into the summer months. But it's looking like we're going to be heading back into a La Nina, more into a weaker El Nino pattern as we head into the fall and winter months. Now, I'm sure y'all are probably confused by now. How does this even play a role in our weather? Now, I'm not going to bore y'all with the details and what all this basically means, but basically, ENSO is our sea surface temperatures. We're going to be in an ENSO neutral pattern as we head into the summer months, and really for the whole month of April. Here's what this basically means. Near normal sea surface temperatures, closer to average to normal seasonal patterns, less Pacific influence. So this basically means we're going to have something called the North Atlantic Oscillation, which we go up here, type this into the AI machine here on X. The key points is research suggests that the Pacific Ocean's ENSO phase, expected to be ENSO neutral here in April, minimizes the influence in the northern hemisphere's weather, allowing the North Atlantic Oscillations and Gulf Stream to play larger roles. Seems likely that during ENSO neutral, weather patterns will be closer to average, with the Atlantic driving variability, especially in Europe and North America. The evidence leans towards the NAO's phase in April being more independent, potentially leading to typical spring-like weather influenced by Atlantic conditions. Now, basically it means that we're going to have less influence in the Pacific. Basically, the ENSO is not going to be playing a role in our weather. The NAO basically is going to have an influence in what we could expect across the globe. Now, in conclusion, since it's ENSO neutral, the Pacific isn't stirring the pot with big temperatures or rain changes. That means that the Atlantic NAO has more control over spring weather, like I mentioned earlier, without Pacific interference. You'll see more typical spring kind of weather, but the NAO decides if it's wet or dry, warmer or cold, depending on whether we're in positive or negative. So basically, what I'm getting at here is we could either have positive NAO or negative NAO, and the ENSO is not going to have any influence over our weather here across the globe, even in Europe. Now, here's what this basically means. ENSO neutral spring, what happens is strong winds blow across the Atlantic from west to east. In Europe, it gets mild and wet. In North America, it tends to be cold and dry, especially in the eastern part of the country and our 51st state in Canada. And why this happens is the jet stream is strong and pushes storms toward Europe, leaving North America chillier and drier. Negative NAO during ENSO neutral spring. Usually in Europe, it turns colder and drier in places like Germany or Scandinavia. In North America, it gets mild and wet, so the eastern part of the country might see more spring showers and warmer temperatures. Why this happens is the jet stream dips south, bringing wet weather to North America and leaving Europe colder. And what happens here is weaker winds across the Atlantic makes the jet stream more wobbly. So basically 1 week could have positive NAO, which means that could be colder and drier across much of the country, especially out east. Then another week we could have a negative NAO, which means it could be getting very warm and wet. And it's when an uptick in severe weather happens, usually. And in simple terms, here is basically what this is. Positive phase, low pressure over here in the North Atlantic, means wetter conditions over the eastern half of the lower 48, and drier conditions in Europe. Negative phase, dry here, lower 48, wet in Europe. So now that I bored y'all with the details of all of that, NAO, ENSO, all that nonsense, let's go ahead and get into the above and below average temperatures, and then we'll take a look at the above and below average precipitation, give y'all my thoughts of what we could expect. We'll take a look at the Climate Prediction Center, show y'all what they think, and then we'll take a look at the next couple weeks on the GFS. Now, it's looking like the beginning of April could start off pretty warm here in the southeast, and then it's looking like could be coming in on some very below average temperatures as we head into the middle parts of April, with the central part of the country coming in on a little bit of a warm up, but much of the country is looking to be a little bit below average. And it's looking to be much of the same story as we head into the end of April, although the central and a little bit of the west central part of the country keeps coming in on above average temperatures. Now keep in mind, below average temperatures don't mean it's going to be cold. It just means a little bit below average for this time of year. You can still have, let's say, 50-degree temperatures and still be below average is what I'm getting at here. And it's looking like May could be a little bit warmer than normal across the country, but of course this is not the May outlook, this is the April outlook. Now let's go and get into the precipitation anomalies. Now, of course, it's going to be well above average here across much of the lower 48 unless you live down here by Texas all the way into Arizona. In southeastern Texas, y'all got in on that flooding yesterday, which was very shocking how much rainfall y'all got down there. And it's looking to be much of the same story as we head into the middle parts of April, although could be coming in on a little bit of a drying pattern here, especially amongst the southwest and a little bit of the Midwest as well. And with above average temperatures expected here in the west central part of the country and above average precipitation expected, could be coming in on some significant severe weather. That's why you saw in the thumbnail, there's a tornado icon with an egg around it. Could be coming in on some severe weather here in the central part of the country as we head into the middle and end of April potentially. And of course, the further we go out, the more uncertainty there is. But what I'm getting at here is expect some wet and cool conditions here out east to start off April. But then at the end of April, I would expect a little bit of a warm up with some drier conditions. So basically, what I'm expecting here is a little bit of a hybrid between both positive NAO and negative NAO, with the eastern part of the country being wetter than normal to start, but a little bit chilly. So basically a little bit of both is what I'm expecting. Now, I could be wrong. Keep this in mind. That's why I put a disclaimer at the beginning of the video. Anything over a week, that's virtually impossible to forecast, so please take this with a grain of salt. But at the end of the month, it's going to be dry and a little bit warm. So basically what I'm getting at here is we could be coming in on a little bit of a hybrid between both. 1 week negative NAO, next week positive NAO. Now, here's what the Climate Prediction Center is predicting. I'm thinking they're getting their data for the beginning of April and a little bit towards the middle of April. We can see here in the southern half into the northeast, well above average. Equal chances means either below or above average. I'm expecting a little bit below average temperatures out east to start off, then heading into a warming trend at the end of the month. As far as precipitation goes, well above average here in the Midwest and Northwest, but drying out down here in the Southwest down into Florida. So we could be coming in on some April showers, which bring May flowers, which means that we could be dealing with some more significant severe weather here in the Midwest. There is actually some severe weather on Sunday, so looking like the beginning of April could be starting off with a bang as an enhanced risk has been issued. Now we don't know the hazards yet. I'll post on X and Facebook later today breaking this down, and I will break this down tomorrow as well. May have another video out, I'm not sure yet, but stay tuned. Now, did say something about the jet stream. That plays a role in our weather pattern as well. That's way up in the atmosphere near the troposphere. The blues, the trough, the reds, oranges is the ridge. You can see we're going to be in a little bit of a ridge as we head into the beginning weeks of April, and then a little bit of a disturbance occurring as we head into the middle and end of April, especially out west and up here in the northeast. So this is what I'm saying is basically 1 week we could have a negative NAO, next week we could have a positive NAO, vice versa. So I don't want to confuse y'all, but basically what I'm saying is expect cooler and wetter conditions out east and really much of the lower 48 unless you live down here in the southwest into the southeast. But then at the end of the month, I would expect some dry and warm conditions for much of the country is what I'm saying. So just prepare for that. Now lastly, let's go ahead and get into the outlook for the next couple of weeks. Now we got that severe weather threat going on Sunday into Monday. And it's going to start to dry out a little bit. It could be coming in on some snowfall out in the mountain west. And then more heavy rainfall here out east. Looks like April's already going to be starting off on a wet note. Pretty spot on. And it's looking like back-to-back systems going to be occurring with potential severe weather next week. I'm keeping an eye on this as well on X and Facebook. And it's looking like it's going to be getting a little bit chilly, so that's pretty spot on too. Wet and chilly to start off April. And then the middle of the month, looks like much of the same story. Now, of course, we can't tell what we could expect at the end of the month. This only goes out 300 hours out, and really anything over 100 hours out can't really accurately predict. But we're going to stick with the guidance from the Climate Prediction Center with April starting off on a warm note for the southwest up into the northeast with a little bit of chilly start here in the eastern half of the country near the Midwest and Northwest. But I would expect a warm up here at the end of the month. As far as precip goes, it's going to be a pretty wet month here in the Midwest, Ohio Valley, Great Lakes, and Northwest. Really for much of the country unless you live down here in the southwest and southeast. But I would expect a little bit of a drying pattern to set up at the end of the month, so please be aware of that. And as y'all know, April showers bring May flowers, and I wouldn't plant anything yet, not at least until May or late May is when I would plant if you live up here in the northern half of the country. Now those birds should be returning here very soon here in April. Going to be returning as far north as the Carolinas, but here in Indiana and Ohio Valley, right around May 3rd is when they start to come back. So make sure you fill up those bird feeders, y'all. Y'all may get birds coming back, and hummingbirds are going to be making a return as well this month. So spring's here, y'all. It's going to be a little bit of a late start, I think, but a late start is better than no start is what I say. And this also means some uptick in severe weather in April. It's typically peak season when it comes to severe weather. Now that we know what to expect here for the month of April, let's go ahead and get into this month in weather history. Starting off with the Great Storm of 1775 on April 13th and 14th. A nor'easter dumped rain and snow across New England with winds up to 50 miles an hour, swelled rivers, and soaked fields, priming the Revolutionary War mud. A fun fact about it is, locals called it the Patriot Storm, believing it favored the rebel cause. The second one here is the Great April Flood of 1862 on April 13th to 15th. 5 to 7 inches of rain flooded the James River in Virginia, turned it into a swamp. It stalled Civil War logistics, wagons sank axle deep, and a fun fact about that is fish reportedly swam across flooded roads, delighting hungry soldiers, so it kept those soldiers fed. Kind of like the Eagles out there in Big Bear Valley. And in 1917, we had the North Atlantic storm on April 4th and 7th. Gales hit 60 miles an hour with heavy rain soaking Western Europe, worsened World War I trench conditions. Some flooded waist high. And a fun fact about that is British poets in the trenches wrote of April's cruel tears, linking it to some folklore, which we'll get into here in a little bit. Now, some more significant historical April weather events. We had the April blizzard of 1945 on April 12th to 14th. 1 to 2 feet of snow blanketed Germany and France, with temps dropping down to 20 degrees Fahrenheit. It snarled German World War II supply lines before Berlin's fall. Soviet troops used the snow to camouflage tanks. White paint wasn't really needed. We had the super outbreak in 1974, April 3rd to 4th. 148 tornadoes tore through 13 U.S. states. Winds hit 260 mile an hour in some tornadoes. Killed over 330 people, injured 5,000. It was the worst tornado day recorded. One tornado even lofted a motel sign 60 miles. Now, in 1927, we had the Mississippi flood in mid-April. Months of rain bursted levees, 27,000 square miles, displaced 700,000. The damage cost $1 billion in 1927 dollars. The fun fact about that is blues songs like When the Levee Breaks were born from this deluge. Kind of like Take the Chevy to the Levee. Now, most recent weather events back in April 2024, the warmest on record globally. NOAA pegged it at 2.38 degrees Fahrenheit above the 20th century average, 11th straight record warm month. South America hit its hottest April, Europe its second. It caused droughts in Brazil and early blooms in April, with a London cherry tree which bloomed twice in 1 month. Nature was very confused that month. Now, April 27th and 28th of last year, Oklahoma tornado outbreak. Dozens of tornadoes occurred. Some were EF3, and also dumped right around 4 to 6 inches of rain. Flash floods and power outages hit rural towns. 2 fatalities reported. A storm chaser caught a twister on live stream, which was viewed by 1 million people. And that actually might have been Brandon or Vince. Go check those guys out, by the way. They are very great storm chasers. There's also some other great storm chasers, but those are the main ones I follow. They're very good. And I like to watch Vince's rants. He has a lot of good rants. He should start a podcast, by the way. Now, April 30th, 2024, we had severe storms in Oklahoma. Golf ball size hail, 70 mile an hour winds, which capped off a stormy month. It caused damage to homes and cars. There was no deaths, but plenty of dents on that day. A hailstone measured 2.5 inches wide. It was big enough to crack windshields. Now, am I expecting a severe weather season like we had last year? Not really, but I wouldn't be surprised. So just prepare for the worst, hope for the best. I wouldn't be surprised if we do have a severe weather threat like we had last year. But again, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. Now, April of 2023, late March actually, and March 26th, tornadoes hit the southern U.S. Mississippi had right around 26 people that perished as a prelude to April's volatility. Set the stage for 2023's active April severe weather season. A twister tossed a pickup truck 200 yards. Driver walked away unscathed. So there's some weather history in April that took y'all down memory lane. Now, some wartime weather history. In 1775, during the Revolutionary War, the battles of Lexington and Concord on April 19th had heavy rain on April 18th, which turned dirt roads into glue, straining British cannons. Clear skies on the 19th let militia snipe retreating redcoats. Mud delayed British plans, giving rebels time to rally. And a fun fact about it is Paul Revere's horse actually slipped in the muck, nearly ending the ride early, bringing the term of the British are coming, the British are coming. Now, the Civil War, we had the Peninsula Campaign in April of 1862. Weeks of rain turned Virginia's clay into a quagmire, stalling Union artillery. Confederates held Richmond as McLean's army slogged mud. A fun fact about it is soldiers dubbed it McLean's Mud March. Some sank knee deep while cursing April showers. So it was very muddy during the Civil War. Now, the War of 1812, Battle of York, which is now Toronto, April 27th, 1813. A mild clear skies eased as U.S. lake crossing wet ground slowed British retreat. Americans torched York's parliament. Weather let them strike fast. A sudden fog bank nearly hid the U.S. ships. British lookouts who thought it was very supernatural. So basically, the weather influenced the War of 1812 with fog rolling in, and the Americans, they swept in and attacked. World War I, the Battle of Arras, April 9th to May 16th of 1917. It was wet and cloudy, drenched the trenches, grounding German planes, but bogging down British troops. Rain favored defenders. The offensive gained little. British troops used duck boards to cross mud. Some sank anyway, losing boats to the slime. World War II, the Battle of Berlin, April 16th to May 2nd of 1945. Intermittent rain mired Soviet tanks in fields. Overcast skies hid their advance. Weather slowed but didn't stop the Soviet steamroller. Hitler reportedly raged at the rain, blaming it for ruining his last stand. Nature didn't really care. Now some interesting April facts and some folklore. Starting off with some April facts for y'all. The origin of the name April derives from the Latin aprilis, possibly from apri, to open, reflecting spring's blossoming, or tied to Aphrodite, goddess of love and renewal. Now, April Fool's Day. I'll be doing a prank on April Fool's, so stay tuned, y'all. On April 1st, pranks abound, possibly from the 16th century France, when New Year's shifted from April to January, leaving some as April Fools. Now, Easter's timing. Easter Sunday, often in April, typically April 20th of this year, falls on the first Sunday after the first full moon, post-spring equinox, merging Christian resurrection with pagan rebirth themes. Now, of course, the birthstone is the diamond, which I'm an April baby, which means strength, and daisy, sweet pea, innocence as its symbol. So strong and innocent, basically, is the symbols of April. Now, we also had the Titanic disaster. The unsinkable Titanic sank on April 15th, 1912, after hitting that iceberg, which killed over 1,500 people, which reshaped maritime safety. And we also had the Lincoln assassination. He was shot on April 14th, 1865, dying the next day. A devastating blow to a nation emerging from civil war. Now some folklore, Easter and pagan roots. Easter borrows from pre-Christian spring festivals. The name itself may stem from Eoster, a German goddess of dawn and fertility, whose symbols like eggs and rabbits echo renewal. Eggs dyed red in early Christian traditions to symbolize Christ's blood evolved into the colorful decoration we see today. Now, the symbol of rabbits in Easter, rabbits via the German Osterhase represent Easter due to their fertility, symbolizing new life. This evolved from the Easter Bunny in America, delivering eggs and joy. Now, what is the Osterhase, you may wonder? The Easter hare is a German folk figure from the 16th or 17th century that laid colorful eggs for children, linking pagan fertility symbols, hares and eggs, with Easter's theme of renewal. Brought to America by German immigrants in the 18th century, it evolved into the Easter Bunny, expanding to deliver treats beyond eggs rooted in springtime abundance and resurrection. The Osterhase shaped the modern rabbit-centric Easter tradition. So essentially, Easter is German, essentially is what this is getting at. And it's not a marketing tactic to give y'all candy or anything like that. It's just a fertility holiday, basically, what Easter is. Now, some weather sayings. Folklore loves April's fickle weather. April showers bring May flowers, reflects its rainy reputation, while in England, a cold April might hint at a good harvest, as in, a cold April, the barn will fill. Now, some planting lore. Farmers in folklore often watched April's signs. A wet month meant fertile soil, but planting too early risked frost, some believing sowing on Good Friday. Often in April, brought divine favor to crops, so I'm guessing just plant by Good Friday. And with it being a wet start to April, it's going to be good for those plants out there, so I wouldn't plant anything yet, not at least until Good Friday, y'all. Don't want to risk any sort of frost. So, I know it's a long video, but hopefully y'all enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure you hit that like and share button so more folks are informed about the weather. Also, leave me some feedback in the comment section down below. If any feedback helps provide to you, the viewer, better, more informed content in the future. And also, make sure to subscribe down below if you haven't done so already, with the bell notifications turned on so you never miss an upload, because here on Is Weather we try to make weather forecasting fun and informative. I also have a Rumble channel if you want to follow that. I'm up to 25 followers on there so far. If you want to check that out, it's WilliamsWX98. I'd greatly appreciate that if y'all follow that page as well. So basically, expect an INSO neutral pattern as we head into April. What this means is we're going to have more of an NAO influence, which means you could have either positive or negative NAO. One week we could have warm and dry conditions. Next week we could have wet and cool conditions, which is what I'm expecting for this month. So prepare for that. I wouldn't plan anything no earlier than Good Friday because of frost. And those birds should be coming back soon as well. I know hummingbirds are supposed to be coming back too. So again, look forward to a volatile month of April when it comes to the weather. When we could have severe weather, next week we could have snow. April showers bring May flowers, is the good old saying. So now, one last thing before I let y'all go. AccuWeather did put up their hurricane outlook. I'll have my hurricane outlook video up by the end of April. It'll be included in the May outlook, so stay tuned to that. I'll be actually working on that as soon as I get done editing this video, so again, stay tuned. It's looking like there could be 3 to 5 major hurricanes, with 7 to 10 of them being just regular hurricanes and 13 to 18 named storms. A little less than last year. We had 5 major hurricanes, with 2 of those being Helene and Milton. I know people in North Carolina are still picking up the pieces down there, so looking like it could be a little less significant hurricane season, but still too far out to tell. Anything can will change, so again, I'll be covering that in my hurricane outlook video, so stay tuned for that. So hopefully y'all enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Hopefully those April showers bring May flowers to y'all, and I will have a prank on April Fools, so nothing is off limits on that day, so be prepared. Warned y'all ahead of time. Appreciate y'all for watching. Have a great day, y'all, and never stop forecasting.